What? We say fight back! We say fight back! We say fight back! No education cut!
The students, united!
We'll never be defeated!
Hello, I'm David Patterson.
And I'm Charlie Smith.
And we are here from Headliners at the Fine Arts Building, which is occupied by students from Newcastle University.
Protesting about the recent fees increase at universities. So can you tell us what's going on at the minute?
We are on our third night of occupancy.
Well done.
Fine Art Legislator. It's my second night here. Hopefully we're not going to get kicked out before Tuesday. Fingers crossed, because we're going to be here all weekend.
Oh god.
And hopefully we'll get what we want.
And you don't mind taking the time out of your day for it?
Not at all.
No, I wouldn't
Not
either.
at all.
How are you finding your time here then?
Yeah, it's really good fun.
Yeah, don't miss home or anything.
No, not at all.
It was started off with about 66 of us, and we basically decided that we needed to do direct action against the rise in fees and cuts that's happening, because it's just despicable.
So how long do you think you'll be involved in this?
The occupation, we have given out a list of demands for the university and for the union and generally for Parliament. Basically, we're not leaving until those demands are met.
I'm here with Kieran, who's a member of Headliners and took part in the protests. So see here, the students at Newcastle Uni have occupied the Fine Arts Building. Do you think they'll send a clear message to the government, or they'll just see it as an irrelevant protest which won't make any difference?
Well, I think perhaps on its own it is not so powerful, but the fact is that there are a number of occupations of universities up and down the country, and this one I think is particularly successful at the moment, and hopefully we might be able to have an impact on Newcastle University at least.
It is making a difference. People are talking about it. It's on the front page of the newspapers. Whether it's going to have any effect in the long run, we can only hope for.
Okay, so how do you feel about the violent protests in the media?
Obviously, the media has jumped on them as an opportunity to show up young people, which I think is wrong. Like, there was absolutely loads of positive protesters come out, and obviously it's the thing that sells newspapers. So one thing, I think it's been totally overhyped.
I was outside Millbank when that happened. I've got to say that violence was very limited, and while I don't condone it, I think that ultimately it had a good effect in making this front page news.
Would you say that young people are taking more active response in politics since recent events?
Absolutely, because it affects everybody. And education is a right. It's a right for
not
an individual.
Privilege.
It's not a privilege.
I don't believe that anyone is apathetic or apolitical. I think everyone has a political opinion, but I think these demonstrations have given young people an outlet in which to demonstrate, how they feel about these things. It gives them, something to do.
I think it has done, definitely. I mean, on the protest in Newcastle this week, we saw about maybe 2,000 people. I think it is a political awakening for many young people, and that can only be a good thing. Though it's just a shame that it's taken such terrible events to bring that about.
We had so many young people from students who are going to lose their EMA, and they're going to be the people. Lose your EMA, and you're going to be the ones that are actually going to face the cuts in the rise in tuition fees in 2 years' time. Then you've got the students at Newcastle University who are sort of generally annoyed about the way education is going there. Then you have the lecturers who aren't allowed to lecture on what they want anymore. Everything's being corporatised. And then you've got all the parents and everyone else who's supporting those children.
Where do you think the cuts should come from? Because we need to have the cuts.
No, we don't.
We don't need to have the cuts.
I do not believe that the cuts are necessary. There is no rationale for them. We can reclaim this money through a Robin Hood tax, for example, on bank transactions. We could reclaim this money from looking at tax avoidance or scrapping Trident. There's a number of possibilities. These cuts are unnecessary.
So we've heard what the students at Newcastle think about the cuts. What about the people at Headliners?
Hi, I'm Lorna. And I went to a protest on the Wednesday. I went because I wanted to. It was amazing, and I wanted to get through our point. I want to go to college next year for another year, but unfortunately they're taking away the EMA, and I think the cuts are ridiculous.
I think education should be free for anyone, and all of those people who are actually making all those cuts today had received the free education, so for them it really doesn't matter. But it seems that they're not thinking about the future generations who are actually going to shape this world tomorrow. So I think it should be free.
In my opinion, it's the Liberal Democrats' fault more than anything, because the only reason why they got any seats at all in this election was on the basis that they'd cut tuition fees and student fees. And I think it's a bit of a stab in the back for students, and it means we are going to have to be paying up to £9,000 a year. And if you want to go to medical school, that's a 5-year course, that'll be £45,000. And they say, well, you're only paying it back when you're earning £21,000 a year. But, I mean, when you're earning that amount of money, you'll be wanting to start a family, you'll be wanting to get on the property ladder. You won't be able to do that because you'll be paying back a huge debt.
I think it feels like the government are punishing the young and the poor for mistakes that the old and the rich have made.
Speaking for someone who's been on job seekers allowance, I really want to go to university. I've always wanted to go to university, and it's taken forever, and it's really annoying us.
I believe that education is a right and not a privilege, and that Nick Clegg has went and shot himself in the foot if he thinks he's ever getting back in Parliament again next election. He only got the student vote because he promised free education, and now he's totally stabbed them in the back, so he can go do one.
Yeah, just as a last point, I just want to urge and implore any young person or anyone out there who's sick and tired of this government just to get out there, get out into the streets, organise with your friends, do exciting protests and get involved. This is definitely something that can change government plan.